All right, so today we're diving into Albert Schweitzer.
Yeah.
Talk about a fascinating life. Doctor, philosopher, musician,
Uh-huh.
Nobel Peace Prize winner.
The whole shebang.
Yeah, but forget the resume for a minute because today we're after something way more interesting.
Okay.
Schweitzer's unusual path to happiness.
Interesting.
You ready to unpack this?
Let's get into it.
Because it goes way beyond just feeling good.
Yeah,
This is about finding deep satisfaction in life.
absolutely.
And here's the kicker.
Okay.
Schweitzer believed true happiness isn't about chasing your own pleasure.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
His approach was pretty radical for his time. And even today,
Yeah.
it wasn't about fleeting moments of joy or, collecting achievements.
Right.
Schweitzer was after a much deeper,
Yeah.
more fundamental contentment rooted in living a truly meaningful life.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
But before we get into the philosophy,
sure.
remind us about Schweitzer's background.
Okay.
What's with this multi-hyphenate label?
Well, think about this. By the time Schweitzer dedicated himself to helping others in Africa,
Okay.
he'd already mastered 3 incredibly demanding fields.
Wow.
We're talking doctorates in theology, music,
Oh, wow.
and then medicine,
Okay.
and not just dabbling.
Yeah.
He was a renowned expert in each.
Wait, so he could have stayed in Europe, had a prestigious career,
Uh-huh.
but chose to go to medical school again to serve communities in Africa.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's key to understanding his view on happiness.
Okay.
It wasn't about personal success. It was about aligning your life with something much bigger.
Yeah.
It's no surprise he went on to win a Nobel Peace Prize
Of course.
in 1952, to be precise.
Okay, starting to see why his take on happiness is worth exploring.
For sure.
So what was so unique about his philosophy that made him such a global figure?
Schweitzer's life was a perfect mirror of his beliefs. He didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk.
Right.
And at the core of it all was this powerful idea: reverence for life. Now, it sounds simple,
Yeah.
but it's way more than just a nice phrase.
Right.
It's about a fundamental shift in how you see the world.
All right, I'm hooked. Break it down for us.
Okay?
What does reverence for life actually mean in a way that makes sense for,
Yeah.
everyday life?
It's about cultivating a deep respect for all living things.
Okay.
Not just humans,
Right.
but animals, plants,
Yeah.
the whole ecosystem.
Mm.
Schweitzer believed recognizing the value in every living being connects us to something larger than ourselves.
Okay.
And that connection is where true happiness begins.
So it's less about me,
Yeah,
and more about seeing ourselves as part of this intricate web of life.
exactly.
Okay.
And for Schweitzer, this wasn't just a theoretical idea.
Right.
It permeated everything he did.
Hmm.
Think about it. He wasn't just treating patients at his hospital in Gabon.
Okay.
He wrote about feeling a sense of responsibility even when clearing a path through the jungle,
Oh, wow.
mindful of the impact on the plants and insects. Imagine having that level of awareness in your own life.
I'm already feeling more mindful just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But here's the big question.
Okay.
How does all this lead to happiness?
Right?
Is it like feeling good about being environmentally conscious?
That's where Schweitzer gets really radical.
Okay.
He believed happiness wasn't something you achieved directly. It's a byproduct of living a life in line with your values,
Yeah.
a life of purpose and integrity.
Hold on. Happiness is a byproduct.
Yeah.
That goes against everything we're told about chasing happiness.
The total mind shift.
Wow.
Instead of asking, how do I be happy?
Right.
Schweitzer suggests asking, how do I live a meaningful life? The fascinating thing is,
Yeah.
he believed that focusing on the second question is what allows happiness to naturally emerge.
Okay, there's a logic to that.
Yeah,
But it still sounds pretty abstract.
sure.
Did Schweitzer have any concrete advice on how to live a meaningful life? A sort of action plan for this kind of happiness?
He absolutely did. And this is where his philosophy becomes really practical.
Okay.
Schweitzer outlined several key practices for cultivating genuine happiness. It's like he left us a treasure map, and now we get to follow it.
Okay, I'm ready to see where this map leads.
Yeah,
What's
okay.
the first step?
First and foremost, Schweitzer emphasized compassion and empathy.
Okay.
And he wasn't talking about just feeling sorry for people.
Right.
He meant actively trying to understand others' experiences,
Okay.
putting ourselves in their shoes, connecting with their struggles and joys.
So it's deeper than just donating to a good cause. It's
Yeah.
about that real human connection.
Exactly. It's about
Yeah.
recognizing the shared humanity that connects us all
Okay.
and acting accordingly.
Right.
And when we do that, Schweitzer believed a profound sense of fulfillment emerges. And yes, happiness follows.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What else was on Schweitzer's happiness action plan?
Another key practice he called meaningful service. Now, this doesn't have to be some grand gesture.
Right.
Schweitzer believed that even small acts of helping, of contributing to the well-being of others, can have a ripple effect.
Okay.
He saw it as an extension of reverence for life,
Right.
acknowledging the value of every living being.
So even those everyday acts of kindness, helping a neighbor, volunteering at a local charity,
Exactly.
those count.
Absolutely. In a world that often feels focused on what's in it for me.
Yeah.
Schweitzer reminds us that true fulfillment comes from shifting our focus to how can I make a positive impact?
It's a good reminder that meaningful service doesn't have to be some huge dramatic thing.
Right.
What else did Schweitzer recommend for living a more meaningful and ultimately happier life?
This one might seem obvious, but it's often overlooked.
Okay.
Living ethically.
Okay.
Schweitzer believed that being honest, fair, and responsible, essentially living in alignment with your values,
Right.
is fundamental to inner peace. And that inner peace is a direct pathway to lasting happiness.
So it's about cultivating that sense of integrity.
Yeah.
Knowing you're living in a way that you can be proud of.
Exactly. Minimizing that inner conflict we all feel when we go against our own conscience.
Right.
Schweitzer believed that when we live ethically, we create a kind of inner harmony that radiates outwards.
I love that image of inner harmony radiating outwards.
Yeah.
It brings to mind something you touched on earlier, that idea of shifting away from personal gain. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure.
Why was that so important to Schweitzer?
It was radical even for his time. Instead of chasing wealth, status, or recognition,
Right.
Schweitzer believed we should ask ourselves,
Okay.
what is my unique contribution to the world? How can I use my talents and passions to serve something larger than myself?
Yeah.
He believed that aligning your life with a sense of purpose,
Right.
something bigger than yourself, is ultimately what leads to true happiness.
It's like finding that sweet spot where our passions and talents intercept with the needs of the world, right?
Exactly.
And the research actually backs this up. Studies show that people who prioritize purpose over personal gain tend to report higher levels of happiness and overall well-being.
It's true.
Pretty amazing how ahead of his time Schweitzer was.
Yeah, for sure.
But how do his teachings apply to the world today?
That's a good question.
We're living in a time of intense competition,
Right.
isolation, and rampant materialism.
Yeah.
Does Schweitzer's philosophy still hold up?
That's where it gets even more interesting. I'd argue Schweitzer's teachings are more crucial now than ever.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
He's offering us a potential antidote to some of the biggest pitfalls of modern life.
Okay, I'm listening.
Tell me more.
For example, he saw compassion as a direct counter to the cutthroat competition and isolation that's so prevalent today.
Right.
Instead of always striving to win, we can focus on building community.
On supporting each other, recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And his emphasis on purpose beyond stuff.
Right.
Well, that's a direct challenge to the consumerism that constantly tells us to buy our way to happiness.
It's about finding a happiness that lasts longer than that next dopamine hit from our social media feeds, right?
Right. And even on issues like climate change. Reverence for life makes caring for the environment a personal value,
Yeah.
not just a political issue.
I'm starting to see how relevant Schweitzer's ideas are to the problems we're facing today.
For sure.
It's like his philosophy offers a roadmap for not only personal happiness, but also for creating a more just and sustainable world.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's this understanding that our well-being is completely tied to the well-being of others and the planet
Right.
that makes Schweitzer's teachings so profoundly relevant in our modern world.
Yeah.
So are you ready to go deeper into this idea of happiness as a byproduct?
Absolutely. I'm
Okay.
still trying to wrap my head around it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It seems so counterintuitive to everything we're told about pursuing happiness directly. I think it's one of those ideas that sounds simple on the surface, but the more you think about it, the more complex it becomes.
Right.
Like, are we supposed to just ignore our own happiness and hope it magically appears?
It's not about ignoring your happiness. It's about understanding the source.
Okay.
Think of it this way. When we chase happiness as a goal,
Right.
it's like trying to catch a butterfly.
Okay.
The harder you chase,
Yeah.
the more it eludes you.
Right.
But if you focus on creating the right environment,
Okay.
a garden full of flowers, the butterfly naturally comes to you.
Okay, I like that analogy. So instead of chasing fleeting pleasures,
Right.
we cultivate the conditions for happiness to flourish by living a meaningful life.
Exactly. And that's where all those practices we discussed come in.
Right.
Compassion, meaningful service, ethical living,
Yeah.
finding purpose,
Okay.
when we prioritize these things.
Right.
Not for the sake of happiness itself, but because they're in line with our deepest values,
Yeah.
then happiness emerges naturally as a byproduct.
So it's almost like a paradox.
Yeah, you could say that.
The less we focus on our own happiness, the more likely we are to actually experience it.
It sounds counterintuitive, but Schweitzer believed.
Yeah.
And I think modern research supports this,
Uh-huh.
that lasting happiness is less about chasing pleasure
Right.
and more about aligning our lives with something bigger than ourselves.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener. Schweitzer's life and ideas are so incredibly relevant today.
Absolutely.
But I have to ask,
Yeah,
if he were alive today, what do you think he would say about the state of the world?
that's a great question.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the man,
Yeah.
but I think he'd have mixed feelings. On the one hand, he'd see all the challenges we're up against.
Yeah.
Climate change, social injustice, political divides.
Right.
But on the other hand, knowing his philosophy, I think he'd also see reasons for hope.
What makes you say that?
His whole life was a testament to the power of the human spirit,
Right.
our capacity for compassion and change.
Okay.
Remember, he was writing about Reverence for Life almost a century ago?
That's true.
I think he'd be inspired by the growing movements for social justice, sustainability,
Yeah.
and global interconnectedness.
So despite all the negativity we see in the world,
Uh-huh.
he'd see signs that humanity is evolving, becoming more aware.
I believe so. He wouldn't shy away from the problems,
Right.
but I think he'd challenge us to act on that awareness,
Yeah.
to use our collective power to create a more just and compassionate world.
That's a powerful message to end on.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Albert Schweitzer's path to happiness,
Okay.
what's the one key takeaway you hope our listener is walking away with?
It's this. True happiness is not something you find. It's something you create.
Okay.
And you create it not by chasing fleeting pleasures, but by aligning your life with something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
something that brings meaning and purpose to everything you do.
Beautifully said. This deep dive has given us all a lot to think about.
It has.
What stands out to you? What will you carry with you from exploring Schweitzer's life and work? Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.